Oh shit. Here we go again. Again!
So this is the Winter Soldier guide. I've used this character to get out of Silver and made it to Diamond 2, and I'm pretty sure in the next few days we're going to make it to Grandmaster. We're going to be covering what his abilities are, how to use them, what his position is in the team composition, briefly touch on some hero matchups that are favorable or unfavorable for him, as well as some combos that you can pull off in your games. With that being said, on to the video. So assuming that you're a brand new player, this is the first time you pick up this character or play a competitive hero shooter or FPS game, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you want to head over into your settings and you want to turn these two options off. And you can find these in your settings. You go to settings, then you go to keyboard, and you want to turn mouse smoothing and mouse acceleration off. It doesn't let the game choose or play with your cursor or whatever. So honestly, just turn it off and you'll play a lot better. Because if you play with mouse acceleration, for example, if you move your mouse here, the computer might predict that you want to move your mouse over here, so it'll just throw your aim off. So just turn those off. We're going to cover his ability really quickly, just in case we have some new players to the game and some new players to the character overall that don't necessarily understand how his kit works, and we're here to explain it. Winter Soldier is a 3-star difficulty hero, but I genuinely think he's like 2 stars. He's not that hard to play. Honestly, understanding how his kit works was what will maybe add that extra star, but the way his kit works is very, very simple. Your rotor stern deal 75 damage and you have 3 shots, right, before you have to reload. Obviously, it's not enough to 3-tap an enemy target, unless you're going for headshots. For headshots, you will 2-tap any squishy target out of existence in the game. At long ranges, at around 20 meters, is when you will have to 3-tap headshot squishy targets. So this is at 35 meters. See, I'm not going to be able to even get this character without 2 full clips, right? And at this range, using a projectile, landing headshots is very difficult. And ideally, you want to be playing within the 27-meter range. 27-meter range is still pushing it. I would put it at around 20-meter range because that also goes into our next ability, which is the Bionic Hook. So his first actual active ability with a cooldown, right? The Bionic Hook. Let me just do infinite cooldowns here. The Bionic Hook, when you click it immediately, cooks targets up to 11 meters. On the website, it says 10. But it's actually 11. And also says when you fully charge, it takes 1 second to fully charge. And you can hook targets up to 21 meters. Second ability is Tainted Voltage. And this is a 55 damage electric punch. It will travel infinitely until it makes contact with a surface. What's nice about this ability isn't its damage profile. All right, because you can use this ability in 2 ways. All right, so let's say you're dueling an enemy. They're over here. And you land 3 shots. You've missed a headshot. You can use this as a quick, like, you know, I'm going to eliminate you. Or you see a highly mobile target, it slows them down. It slows them down by up to 35% of their movement speed, which is really good for moving targets or very mobile targets. We're looking at like Black Panthers or Iron Fists or so on and so forth. But what makes this ability really nice and what makes me think that Storm isn't a really big deal in my lobbies is that it knocks flyers down. It knocks them down. It knocks them out of the sky. You just look at a flying target and you just, bam, you knock them down to the ground. And it's not that hard to aim. It's quite a generous hitbox, so you can pretty much get a flying character down really quickly. Again, if you get them down from like very far away, so let's say you're over here and the flying character's over there, it is a projectile, so you have to lead it a bit. Yeah, I completely messed that. You're not going to be able to get the elimination very easily. So if there is a flying character, you will want to be within that 20-meter range. So the reason why you want to be in that 20-meter range is that once you pull him down, you can use your hook to keep him down. Now, your third ability, the Trooper's Fist. This is a punch, and it travels 9 meters, deals 25 damage, and you also dash at 30 meters per second. Now, the tooltip does say that you travel up to 10 meters, but it's actually 9. If you want to count the travel time for your target, however, it goes up to 11. Anyway. Deals 25 damage and launches enemies upwards towards the end. You can aim this and launch your target whichever directions you want to take them. You want to take them upwards? You can take them upwards. If you want to take them downwards, you can also take them downwards. It goes in whichever direction that you go. And it takes your target with you. We have 2 more abilities. We're going to cover his passive right now. And what his passive does is that if you have 3 shots, right? You have 3 shots, right? So let's say you finished your shots and now you're reloading. But as you're reloading, you can use an ability and it immediately resets your ammo back up to 3 again. Okay, and it doesn't matter which ability. It can also be your hook, it can be your charge, or it can be your Tainted Voltage. And as you use your abilities, you will notice at the bottom of my screen, we are gaining over health or shields. It's actually health, it's not shields, because you still take the same amount of damage. It was shields, then if it was shields, then you'll be taking less damage per damage dealt or damage dealt to you, but it's just over health. So the hook and tainted voltage grants you 40 HP, and your trooper's fist grants you 50 HP, and your Kraken impact grants you 50 HP. Now you're going to be wondering, what the hell is Kraken impact? Well, Kraken impact is the infamous your ultimate ability is Kraken Impact. And the way Kraken Impact works is that it also reloads your ammo for you. It marks enemies or puts a culling on enemies, which lasts 5 seconds, and immediately executes enemies that drop below 20% of their health. Can infinitely scale, so you can just keep using this over and over. If an enemy is going to be immediately executed, you see this red mark over their head, and you can use it to execute them immediately. That is, or those are his abilities in a nutshell. Now we'll move on to some combos and general playstyle tips. Generally, you'll want to be playing within the 20 meter range, but you won't want to push past your tank. If your tank is playing beyond your effective range, then so be it. You don't have enough mobility, and you aren't a flanker. You aren't meant to go for flanking plays because you can't get out of them if you get caught out. Your job is to support your front line while protecting your backline. You have a lot of disruptive utility. You can hook, you can displace, you can slow, right? And you also deal quite a decent amount of damage. If you see your supports being dove on, hook the flanker. If you see your supports being dove on, your hook's on cooldown, push the flanker away. If you see an enemy tank pressuring your tank, you have hook, slow, or a push. That is your role. Your role is, you're not a direct front line, you're not a backline, you're sort of like a medium to close range fighter for your team. Okay, so on to the actual useful gameplay tips. Your primary fire isn't just a bullet, it is an explosive round. While it deals 75 damage per shot, it also deals 65 damage as an AoE cone 5 meters behind your target. So just to show you as an example here, see how this bot is taking damage even though I'm damaging the bot in front of it. So that's why it's okay for you to fire at the enemy tank, because for players or other DPS that are just stuck up their tank's ass, you'll be dealing passive damage to them. And that's why you're really good against team compositions that require the enemy to be stacked together. Now that's not the only thing that deals a cone behind your enemy. Your hook as well also hooks enemies behind the hook. Now you're starting to see a pattern that your abilities don't necessarily pierce, but they splash in a cone behind your target. So stacked enemies are basically the targets you should be going for. Okay, so here's a combo for you to pull off in your games, and that is the hook bash combo. And the way that this works, I missed the hook over there, is that you hook a target back into your team and then you just go bam. And then your team also goes bam and destroys them. The way that you can do this is that the moment you land the hook, you just pull them to the side. And once you pull them to the side, you can use your charge to push them back. Now, to ensure that this works all of the time, is that strafe in the direction or strafe in the opposite direction of where you want to pull your target. So if I want to pull this bot to my left, I'm going to be strafing to the right and pulling them over to the left. If I want to pull this bot to my right, I'm going to strafe to the left and then push them to the right. It's actually very easy once you get the hang of it. And you can even pull off some 180 hooks. It doesn't work all the time. The 180 hooks don't really work all the time. It's actually very finicky. These bots have very generous hitboxes, that's why it works. But on characters like Luna Snow or characters with smaller hitboxes, it doesn't always work. The safest option is pulling them over to your side and then hooking them backwards. It's not a true 180 degrees, but it's close enough. You can either push them into a wall or even push them off of a ledge. Just try not to push yourself off of a ledge as well. I've had that happen to me a few times, but pushing enemies off a ledge with the Trooper's Fist is a lot of fun. So now on to another combo that you can pull off, is that you hook, shoot, shoulder bash, and then shoot again. Now this is actually quite easy to pull off because you're not changing any directions. And say you're in a 1v1, right? So there's no other enemies around you, it's just you and whatever target is in front of you. You basically just hook them, shoot them, shoulder bash them, and then shoot them. Okay, so on a 275 HP target like Luna Snow, what you can do is try getting a headshot before the shoulder, the trooper's fist, right? Before you fist them into the air. Try getting a headshot after the hook. If it doesn't work, then yeah, I mean, sometimes shit happens, right? If you can go for a quick 1, 2, 3, you can, but this is very telegraphed and your opponent will have a lot of time to react to you doing this. Because even though it is 0.5 seconds, you still have to wind up. And that's why I like to open up with a hook, try getting a shot. If you don't get a shot, it's fine. Even if you miss. So let's say, even if you don't get the elimination here, and your target is running away from you, you can just do that. You can just track your target and do that. And that will finish off a 275 HP target. That is something that you can do. Practice makes perfect. So lastly, it is the shoulder bash into ultimate combo. And this is not difficult, but a bit tricky to use. And what you can do with this is that you use your shoulder bash and you just walk under your enemy and use your ultimate. Because as you can see, his ultimate launches him up all the way into the air. All right. Now, this takes a lot of time before you can dash into the target. And we are trying, or we want to minimize the amount of time that we spend in the air. You can do this in two ways. If you have the drop on your target and you're behind them, then you could just shoulder bash them, walk under them, and do that. Sometimes the game won't register it. It acts a bit funny, right? So you literally just left shift, walk 2 steps, and then use that, and left click, and there you go. You've eliminated this entire time of you flying up into the sky, right? Because this is a big waste of time, and enemies will see you coming a mile away. However, say you don't have the drop on your enemy, and you see an enemy over here, you hook them, shoulder bash them, and just do this immediately, and it will, I guarantee you, will catch them by surprise. No one will expect you to do this. And yeah, I mean, to practice it, just literally just hold W. Literally hold W. Hold W, Q, and then left click. And left click, yeah? Don't let the ultimate go down because sometimes it won't register or it'll register or it'll take a while for it to register. I have had times where it hasn't registered and it just refunded my ultimate for me. This is probably the most, if you're gonna take nothing away, then this is probably the most important thing that you should be taking away from this guide is this. Because this is actually a game changer. Because this is really bad. This is a really bad. Everybody can see you. Everybody sees the direction that you're going to go in, and you're just not going to be able to get much value out of it, unless you know you can do this when you've already wiped a few members of the enemy team and you're just hunting targets down. You can do that, but if you're trying to start that snowball, then this is the better way to do it. What is nice about his ultimate, what makes his ultimate the ultimate carry potential ultimate in the game and just completely snowballs fights, it just never ends. As long as you have targets, you have an ultimate. As long as you can eliminate those targets within 5 seconds, you have an ultimate. And you can do this infinitely. You can literally do this infinitely. And what's even more fun is that if the enemy is running Loki, you can even reset this off of Loki clones. You can reset this off of Logan or Wolverine, right? If he has his passive. You can reset this off of Hulk. And then when he goes back into Bruce Banner, you can reset it off of him again. And those are the 3 characters that you can reset this off of. Now, when it comes to matchups, in terms of Vanguards, you can pretty much solo 1v1 delete every Vanguard in the game, with the exception of a Thor player that knows what he's doing, because Thor can deal quite a disgusting amount of damage, but that is an exception. Thor players are usually very easy to beat and very easy to kite. You just use your punch and then you just kite backwards. He will not be able to catch up to you without using some resources of your own. His hitbox is huge. You can hook him, push him, slow him, and just aim for his head. He'll get deleted almost instantly. Now, the Vanguards that can give you a problem are Doctor Strange, because your hook is very telegraphed. All Doctor Strange has to do is he has to hear and look at you doing this, and then he just puts his shield up. There is nothing you can do about this shield, right? And once you've wasted your hook, and let's say it's a 1v1 scenario, he blocks your hook, he goes 1, 2, 3, and he just deletes you. That's Doctor Strange. Similarly, with Magneto, right? He sees you, charge up your hook. All he has to do is that, or he does that, or he sees his teammate is going to get hooked. He does that. And then he just comes in and he starts wailing in on you. But it's actually easier to duel a Magneto versus a Doctor Strange significantly so. And normally, in terms of like damage, Magnetos aren't going to cause you many problems anyway. But Doctor Strange is arguably the only tank I would worry about. Venom, there's no real use in hooking him because he's just, the moment you hook him, he's gonna run away. That's pretty much it. You can duel him very easily, but he's just gonna run away, so it's a wasted hook. It's better off going on another target. So the Punisher isn't really a DPS you should be worried about, but the only time you should be worried about is if you're ulting him, he can get away and then just come back with a shotgun and make your life a bit miserable. DPS that are a bit of a big deal for you. Spiderman, he's just going to zip around the map. There's no real way to catch him. Unless you see him focusing your supports, then you can save your supports, but there's no real way for you to ideally 1v1 a good Spider-Man. Namor, if you deal enough damage to him, all he's going to do is just drop his things and he's just going to run away. And he's going to get healed, and after he gets healed, he's going to take you out. You can defeat Namors, right? Namor isn't scary. What's scary is that you don't deal enough burst damage to have him not use his bubble, right? I mean, he can even just use his bubble really quickly, right? If he has the toggle, he can just use his bubble very quickly and mitigate a lot of your damage and just use it to escape, get over to high ground. Is just not a fun character to play against. Namor is probably my least favorite character to play against as Winter Soldier. You, however, as a Winter Soldier, are very good for your team. When you see Namor's octopus, shoot them. You are very good at taking care of Namor's octopus. If you can take care of his octopus and you know he doesn't have his bubble cooldown, he doesn't become that big of a problem. But if he has his bubble cooldown, he has his octopus, and they're out and they're just focusing you, all he's got to do is just this. Iron Fist, not that big of a deal. Wolverine, kind of annoying if he kidnaps you. Psylocke is another DPS hero that if she gets the drop on you, right? If she gets the drop on you, there's not really much that you can do. If she gets the drop on you. Several times I've tried to take out a Psylocke player and they just deal, and I don't want to say she deals insane damage, but she deals very respectable damage. You have to respect her damage. Hawkeye is probably another DPS that you have to respect because you both occupy a similar space. That time to kill is also much faster. He is very dangerous. If he has you in his sights, you just need to watch out for one tap. If you can get a hook off of him, but odds are it's going to be very difficult for you to hook a Hawkeye. He can just get away, or if you do get close enough, he can just knock you back. A good Hawkeye will really mess up your day. Storm, not that big of a problem. Hela, not that big of a problem. Black Panther. Now, the way that you would counter Black Panther, okay, is that Black Panthers, this is what they do, right? This is, you know they're going to do this. You know. You know it, I know it, we all know it. He's just going to go for the spear and he's going to dash, right? He's going to keep going for his resets. What you should do is that Black Panthers like going for their spears and then dashing almost immediately. Tank the spear, and as you see him throwing, so as you see him like hold his spear up, start charging up your hook, because if you see him, you will hook him out of his dash, and then he'll be out of that cooldown, and he won't be able to reset his dash. That's if you can see him coming. If you can't see him coming, then you're pretty much screwed. But Black Panthers, if you can see them coming, then they're not that big of a threat, to be honest. Magik as well. You can also play against her similarly to how you would play against Black Panther. If you see her coming, always aim your hook for after she uses her stepping disc, and most Magics will try to engage on you using this ability anyway. If you mess up the timing of your hook and she manages to get you in her combo, then you're pretty much screwed, because although she can't really one-shot you without using all of her abilities, a good Magic will make you want to just play Namor. She'll make you swap off. Try to play off of her stepping disc. Try to get your hook on her. If your hook is on cooldown, then you have your charge. Try to get your charge after she uses her teleport. You have your slow, so try to get that off. So do anything but time it after she uses her teleport. And you also have to be wary, like count how many teleports have I seen her use. If I've seen her use one, then she probably has another one. Always assume she has one extra one in the bank. Other than that, I don't think that there are that many real issues. Strategists, Loki, you love them. You have to love Loki's. Loki's with you, Loki's against you. You will reset your ultimate again and again off of Loki clones. Cloak and Dagger, if you try personally, I don't try hooking or try going for Cloak and Daggers, because after the hook, they do have a second to just get away from you. They'll just run away, they'll blind you, and then they'll just continue running. They'll just get out of there. Rocket, very annoying to pin down, very annoying to catch. I usually just try to deal with them from far away. Adam Warlock isn't that big of a deal. Luna Snow isn't that big of a deal. Invisible Woman is also annoying. Magik, sorry, not Magik. Invisible Woman, Luna Snow, and Rocket are the 3 supports you have to watch out when you're using ultimate. Actually, 4 supports. These are the 4 supports you have to watch out when you're using your ultimate. The reason being because if it's not going to execute them, if they don't have this mark over their head, don't do it. Don't do it, because if you'll just land this and they're culled, or you've marked them for culling, you're not going to get that elimination because they're just going to run away, or they're just going to dodge you immediately. So several times where I have jumped like all the way up in the sky, they've just moved away, which is why this tech was born, where you immediately do it. It does take a while for the game to register it sometimes, but the way that you want to do it is that you want to be able to left click almost immediately, right? So that way you guarantee the hit, and if you can get a hit before you mark them or before you use your ultimate, then that's even better. So one last thing that I would add is that assuming you need to escape, right? I don't recommend this, but if it is your only option, and if you don't get escape, your team will lose because then they're just going to trickle in without you. Use your ultimate to get the hell out of wherever you are. I don't recommend it, but only use it as a last resort. Your ultimate isn't very expensive. It's cheaper than Doctor Strange's ultimate by like 300 points. It's 3,100 for his ultimate costs 3,100, but it has so much potential, and you shouldn't be wasting it. You shouldn't be wasting it to run away. But if you are certain that your team will trickle in without you, then use it to just get out of wherever you are, especially if your positioning is very bad and you're sure that it'll cost you the game or cost you the round. Now, for some general tips with this character, you always want to be aiming at head level, wherever head level may be for that particular enemy that you're facing. Now, assuming that you're going up against Magneto, try always to position yourself to the left. So your left, not his left would be over here. Because if you're over here and you're trying to aim for his head, his hand his hand actually blocks his headshot box, or his hitbox for his head. Whereas over here, you get a cleaner shot. If you do find yourself standing on this side, aim for like this part of the ring, and you'll manage to land a headshot on Magneto. Similarly with, similarly when you're up against Starlord. Starlord isn't really that big of a deal, but let's say you do find yourself up against a Starlord. If you're facing, or you're standing right in front of let's pull him over here. If you're standing in front of a Starlord like this, you're not going to really be hitting his head. You'll have a much easier time hitting his head from either to the side or from behind or from either side. But if you're over here, then his hands are just going to be blocking. I know that at that time I actually did manage to hit his head. But yeah, because I'm standing to the side, I was actually pretty close. But it is very annoying. So yeah, aim for wherever the enemy's headshot hitbox is, right? Another tip is try to play around natural cover as much as you can. What's nice about this game is that because it's in third person, so say you're hiding here, that Starlord doesn't know that I'm actually standing here. However, if they hear me doing this, they can actually hear me charging my hook up. If you're going to peek and you want to peek with a hook, it's almost counterintuitive because when you're peeking, you always want to be peeking towards the right side, right? You want to be peeking off of a left-sided wall, so the right side of your body is exposed. However, for your hook, because you hook with your left hand, you want to be hooking from a wall on the right side. Let's say you see here, the moment you peek, you can just pull him in. He's just gonna die because of the spawn point. But yeah, those are some general gameplay tips. Always aim for head, play around natural cover. These are some general gameplay tips that you can apply to any other FPS game that is third person or even first person. Always be aiming for head level. Always look for the headshot hitbox. I also recommend just coming into the practice and going up against several enemies, trying to see what their headshot hitbox is like. For example, Black Panther, right? When you shoot him, right? Let's say you shoot him. His headshot hitbox actually goes lower, unlike from when he's just standing stationary. So see, he's just standing stationary like that. But once you shoot him, it actually goes below, and you have to aim slightly lower. So with Black Panther, whenever you see him sort of in his combat pose, it's actually fine to be aiming for his body. Or even if you are engaging a Black Panther, it's okay to be shooting his body because he's just going to lower, he's going to duck his head down like that. So yeah, just come and practice, go up against every other character and try to see what's the most effective way for you to shoot their head, and try to see how generous the hitboxes. Whereas Loki, see, he just lifts up his head and he aims his scepter. You can still manage, it's not really that big of a deal. And I know that in this game it can be very tempting to do this, just to be jumping around and shooting. Don't ever do this because it's just not a very good habit. Your jump, you can't really maneuver as much in your when you're up in the air. The enemy can also predict where you're going, unless even if you try to go back, this actually slows down your momentum from where you're actually going, and you just become almost stationary in the air, becoming a very easy target. Moving on, the ability that I want to kind of want to talk about is his team up ability, right? So your team up ability is with Rocket Raccoon, where he gives you infinite ammo and 50% increased fire rate. So just to show you, we're just going to turn off infinite cooldowns. This is our regular fire rate, and we have 3 shots, obviously. But when Rocket is with us, we have infinite ammo, and look how fast you're just firing. You can shred through enemy teams with this team up. It's actually very, very strong. I want to say it's stronger for the Punisher, but the Punisher already deals decent damage. But honestly, I see a lot more value for this team up with the Punisher versus the Winter Soldier. With the Winter Soldier, you actually do deal a bit more burst damage in terms of your overall DPS, but you're just dealing. I mean, you know, at whatever range, as long as you're within the 28 mark or 28 meter mark, you're going to be 2-tapping most targets. However, if you are going up against an enemy team and you have a rocket, he just throws it down for you, just feel free to just go ham. Obviously, don't be firing at the wall, right? For the last sort of tip, it's more of a general gameplay tip on how to improve. I normally like coming to this part of the practice range, and I like setting the bot to Luna Snow, whichever character that you want to set it to. But I generally like Luna Snow because it gets me conditioned to the mindset to always be focusing on the enemy supports. But yeah, I set it to Luna Snow, generate type, it's fixed, around 10 to 20 meters. 20 meters is okay. You want to make it to either target movement, you want either static or dynamic. To start off, I would say go to static and then put the duration to about like 2 minutes, 60 seconds, whatever you feel is fine. 2 minutes is okay. 2 minutes for static targets is okay. And then after this, you want to move on to dynamic targets where they're constantly moving. It is a bit annoying because you have to reload after every 3 shots. So what I also like doing is just turn off no ability cooldown and just have this turned on. It kind of gets me sort of warmed up before I want to get into the game. Now, my general warm-up routine is that I do this for 2 minutes, and then I do moving targets for 2 minutes, and then I go into Doom Match. I play 3 games of Doom Match. And I don't necessarily try to win Doom Match, but you're up against real players, right? And you get to sort of see what other players are doing. It warms you up. It's a good warm-up. I like Doom Match as a warm-up versus quick play. It's faster, it's more convenient. You don't really have to be playing an objective or relying on your team to win. You can sort of solo win in that game mode. Doom Match is really, really good for those who know how to use it. And what I like about this game mode as well here, or with the practice here, is that you can sort of set a target or like a score that you currently have, and you can and then you can try to break it or beat it later on in the future. Let's see how well I do this time. We have about 47 seconds, and I'm not going to be going for the entirety of this. We're just going to cut over to something else right now. Always be precise and try to lead your shots properly before you're taking the shot. You only have 3 shots, so you need to make sure that they count. Don't just fire randomly hoping that you'll hit something. Make sure that whatever you are or whatever shots you're taking, you are hitting. Always take 100% of the shots that you can't miss and minimize the shots that you are likely to miss. However, if you are beyond like your effective range, then it's perfectly fine for you to go just try firing into something because you have infinite bullets. So yeah, but that's pretty much it in terms of the guide, some gameplay tips and tricks, and what you should really be looking at, what you should be doing, where you should be sort of playing. Play behind your tank in front of your supports. Help your strategists. Don't tunnel vision onto an enemy. Don't hyper focus on getting their backline, because their enemies or your enemies are trying to do the same thing for your backline. And you have a lot of utility. You have a lot of utility to help your team out. You have incredible damage. You have one of the best damage profiles in the entire game, where you can either do splash damage, you can do single target damage. Honestly, this is one of my favorite characters in the game, one of my favorite characters in any competitive shooter that I've ever played. I use this character to climb all the way out of Silver into Diamond 2, and I'm pretty sure because I haven't played in the last couple of days, and I'm pretty sure if I have, then I would have gotten to Grandmaster by now. So this is really your ticket to get out of to get the hell out of Elo Hell. Like, you'll just get out of there like this. That's pretty much it for the guide. If you enjoyed it, please let me know. Let me know if I missed anything out. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you liked it, you liked it. If you disliked it, dislike the shit out of it. That's it for me, and I'll see you all in the next one.